What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smithy with another GSD interview where every single week we interview top entrepreneurs and just straight up top badasses, you guys out there dominating their space. These are people that are choosing to not live a life of mediocrity, but instead choosing to go out there and create big lives for themselves and for their families. So today, you guys, we've got a special guest on the show, somebody I'm really excited to have on the show, entrepreneur, fitness coach, speaker, author. So really stoked and honored to have Brett Gallagher on the show. Welcome to the show, my friend.
How are you? I mean, hey, I'd say this. I hope I live up to that badass statement there that you just said at the beginning. So I hope people don't fall asleep in the middle of this if they're listening to it while they're driving or something like that. So
nah, dude. I mean, you're doing it right. I mean, you're doing it big. Yeah. You're got a massive business that you're growing, but at the same time, I mean, you're out there speaking, you're taking time to write books and give back, and you're coaching in a lot of different spaces. You're coaching executives, you're coaching athletes, so you're doing a lot of big things, and then you definitely meet the badass criteria for sure, man. So, but before we dive into what you're doing today, man, let's rewind the clocks. I know you have a pretty interesting backstory of how this journey all happened. So let's go back to college years. How did you wind up as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think it was one of those things that I always knew I wanted to do something big. I just didn't know quite what it was going to be. I had this kind of encouragement from my grandfather growing up, always pushing me to kind of do just dirty jobs. I guess it's the best way to say it. But he would always follow it up when I get done with it. He's like, "This is why you go work for yourself. This is why you go work for yourself. This is why you call your own shots. This is why you make sure you get your education. This is why you make sure that you continue to push forward, learn, to grow." And again, when you're 10, 15, 12, 20 years old, you're not really realizing that there's a lot of wisdom in what he's saying. But for me, when I finished up college, I played soccer through college. I kind of ended up at this point where I was like, I played soccer for 20 years of my life, and that was my life. And then all of a sudden it came to an abrupt end. And when you have something pulled out from underneath you that has just been an everyday part of your life for the past 20 years, you kind of fall into a little bit of a funk. You don't know what's next. The only thing I can correlate that to is somebody's like maybe an empty nester later on in life. When your kids leave, all of a sudden you're like, man, I've been a parent for 18, 20 some odd years, and all of a sudden it's gone. What is the next step for me? And so I kind of wrestled with that for, a period of 4 years, and it turned really ugly for me. It got to the deep, dark depression years of trying to figure out what's next. It kind of fell into this little bit of a funk, but in the back of my head, I always knew that fitness was a huge part of me just being a soccer player. And it's something that slowly started to become part of something I enjoyed doing. Friends started seeking out, kind of, hey, can you help me out with this? Can you help me out with that? Because a lot of them kind of fell into that freshman 15, and they're like, man, I kept it on over the last 4 or 5 years. Can you help me get it off? And it just kept evolving and saying, hey, this is something that I could really truly turn into a business. But if I am going to do this as a business, I'm going to do it underneath my own terms, stuff that my grandfather taught me way before of don't follow the crowd. Don't just open up shop and do what everybody else is doing around you. Make something that's truly unique to you, that speaks to me, and people will come. The people that are seeking out that type of service, that want something different, that want to be challenged in a whole different way, they're going to follow you. So that kind of led me up to the days of opening the gym. That's that backstory. Kind of to get to where we're at of 2006 of opening up the gym.
So what before we get into opening up your gym and what that was like, so you talked about getting into a dark place and that depression. We see so many people that wind up there and they're never able to get out there. And we see it, like you said, with athletes, you got your whole life devoted to this, and no really backup plan, and we see, but then we like you talk about empty nesters, but we see it all the time in this world that people are just unfulfilled, they're depressed, and they're never able to get out of that funk and go out there and take action. I mean, what were some of those things that you did, man, to get yourself right so you could start taking those next actions?
Yeah, I think sometimes it depends. For me, it was hitting rock bottom. It was having that moment where it was kind of like I drove relationships away from me. Even my parents were starting to kind of step in and say, hey, there's something wrong. There's something that's not right. So, but I was at least wise enough in that moment to listen to loved ones when they're saying, hey, you got to pull yourself out of this, because at the time, this deep, dark period for me was, I was kind of addicted to ephedra at the time when it was all legal, and I'm popping that like it's candy and, just running around like a squirrel on, rocket fuel all day long. So I think that was, it was the voice of outsiders, but it was also too as well that voice inside me of saying, hey, look, there's so much more that you have to give. There is a turning point that's coming along the way. It was a 4-year journey for me down into it. Some people could go through it in 4 weeks, 4 days. Others, like myself, it might take you 4 years to kind of walk through it all. But I think it's more of listening to loved ones around you. If you start to hear these common voices coming back over and over again, saying the same stuff, are you at least smart enough to go, you know what, there might be some truth to it, and start to explore those types of things. For me, again, it was hearing that enough from my parents. And then finally at that right moment, I've always heard it explained this way, is that everybody has like a keypad, and basically you could hear people say the same thing over and over again, but it might unlock one number. And then someone else comes along and says the same thing, it's going to lock another number. And by the time they get to that 5th number, though they're saying literally the same exact thing, they just said it to you at the right moment, at the right time, in the right way, that all of a sudden just unlocked it. And then you're a changed man. I mean, people literally are like, I had that turning point right then and there, because I think it was somebody that came along. They finally hit that last number in the combination, and things started to take off for them.
Yeah, I love it. There's a saying out there that the teacher appears when the student's ready,
Yeah,
and it's
exactly. Yeah.
So what else was happening in that 4 years, man? So were you did you jump into the corporate space? Were you training at what was going on work-wise during that time?
Yeah, work-wise for me was, again, it was continuation of soccer. I started coaching soccer because that was, again, is what I knew. And so, but during the daytime when I had a little bit more free time, it was that you didn't want to sit still, because you didn't want to hear those voices in your head start to talk about, the good old days, and again, Al Bundy type moments of reliving how many goals you scored or something in a game. So I picked up running, and I got hooked on it really fast. And it became that addiction, because all of a sudden, I'm telling my friends, oh, I got to go run 18 miles, 20 miles. And they're like, man, you're crazy. And they started giving me those kind of like pats on the back, those verbal pats on the back. And I'm like, wow, here it is. Here's that applause that I've been missing. So that just drove me down this route of, I started blocking things out to go to the workout side of things. So it became an unhealthy addiction, something that was supposed to be truly healthy for me. Quickly became that journey of, wow, this isn't good. I'm battling a lot of knee pains, back pain, shoulder pains, let alone internal, I had an internal ulcer. I mean, that was just like bleeding. Here I am at 24, I've got this crap wrong, and here I am supposed to be somebody who's supposed to be fit and healthy. And again, it was just the accumulation of all these things starting to pile up during that 4-year period. To the peak point was when, I went into an internist and to get this ulcer looked at, and she pretty much, she hit me over the head with the good word about, you're dumb, you're an idiot, what you're doing, you're throwing away your life, you're going to be dead in the next couple of years if you continue down this path. And again, that really opened my eyes up to say there has to be a better way. And then that started helping me sort of fine-tune my philosophy when it came to training and the way that we do things now to this day, with sleeping more, eating better, training less kind of mentality for people, versus saying, hey, let's go an hour, let's push it hard, let's kill ourselves all the time. We got to say, hey, let's get back to the basics of what it means to live fit and healthy. And then that goes into business, that goes into life, that goes into relationships, kind of all around.
Yeah. I mean, all that external and internal stress you're putting on yourself, and it's weird. It's like we almost have to unteach ourselves everything that we thought we knew about fitness and health, because more is not better, which is kind of how we've been conditioned, man. So excited to hear about that. But I want to, okay, so now you open up this facility. You decide to go open it up, and the beginning years of entrepreneurship, there's a lot of obstacles that maybe we didn't think are going to be obstacles. What were some of those, initial challenges like opening that? Because now you're not just the coach, the trainer. Now you're having to order soap and pay all the bills and do all the other shit that people don't even fathom, right?
I kind of jumped into it, probably the worst way possible. I was 25. I was young. I was naive. I was immature. And I found this location, which I'd been looking for like 4 years. I was like, man, if I can find this right location, stumbled upon it. And then literally when it came up for lease, I contacted the landlord right then and there, signed the lease. I'm 25, no clients, not even training. I had no money. I was just like, you know what, build it and they will come. Yeah. And to the extent at this time, my parents were like, man, we have no money to give to you. You don't know anybody. You don't know rich friends at this point. You know, I had a bunch of thrift store furniture sitting in my apartment at the time. And my wife now, my fiance at the time, was like, man, you're going to start us off in bankruptcy. This is going to be the worst thing possible for us. So those initial days were all about the hustle aspect of it all. I mean, it was showing up that, man, I had this deep-seated reason for being here. Now I just needed to get, you know, bodies inside the door to experience it and to say, hey, you know what, this is a totally different training environment for me. So yeah, it was wearing the multiple hats. It was chaos, I would probably say, for the first year, and not knowing. Looking back in hindsight right now, I couldn't tell you all the things that, you know, I went through at that time to make it work. But I look back and say that the one thing that was, I think, true to me then, which is still true to me now, that every single person that walked through the door, I didn't see them as a dollar sign. I saw them as, you know, this person that was, I'm going to build this relationship with this person, that through this relationship, they're going to trust me more. They're going to come back for repeat business. And then one day they're going to invite their friends to come and join them, versus me having to get them to refer people to me. That I was going to create these relationships in this unique training environment, that there was such a comfort that people were like, he's here for the long haul. He's here for something different than just signing me up, get me on the contract, you know, put me on an EFT, and then that's it. You know, 6 months later, they're out the door. So, you know, here we are now looking back onto it. You know, we've had, I'd say, probably at least 50, 60 clients that have been with us, you know, since day one. That, you know, in the training world, that's kind of unique. I think maybe just in a gym membership, people might just kind of go and, you know, come and go as they please. But in a one-on-one kind of small group setting as we run, to keep those relationships for years and years and years, I think kind of speaks volume, not to just what I've done, but what our team has done about building those relationships with people.
So how did you stay strong initially, man, when you got all this going on? You got this internal stress. You got your fiance thinking that, yeah, I mean, not that they're like against you, but you know those comments. Yeah. I mean, it feels like, man, everybody thinks I'm going to fail. Even my closest friends and family members and loved ones. I'm on this new venture, and like, how'd you keep pushing, man? Was it those early on conversations with your grandfather? I mean, how did you stay mentally strong and keep pushing?
I think it goes back to a strength of mine. I mean, we all have our different individual strengths, and one of mine is the vision aspect of things. You know, I had this crystal clear vision of what the facility was going to look like, where it was going to be. You know, not necessarily a specific neighborhood, but what the surrounding, you know, kind of area started to be. And when I stumbled upon this first location, I was like, this is it. This is exactly where it's gonna happen, because I want it in the middle of a nice neighborhood, right across the street from a school. You know, it just kind of all these little boxes. So once all those boxes were checked with this one location, there was like this deep-seated sense of like, this is it. It's about to happen. You know, and these doors of opportunity, I think that, you know, as long as we keep knocking on them, that they're either going to open or shut. And then you just have to be wise enough to say, if this door continuously keeps opening, go for it. You know, for me, again, I found that right location. And this is kind of a little sub-story of my landlord says, all right, great, you signed the lease. You know, for your build out, you're going to need $16,000, because he was going to be footing the bill for the build out. I said, great, you know, I'll just roll it into my lease. He said, no. He said, we don't work that way. You got to pay me the money up front. This was on a Tuesday. You know, and basically kind of, you know, long and short is there was a friend out there who was willing to foot me the $16,000 I needed. Not for a loan, not for hey, I'm giving you this as a charity payback. He says, no, I want to be your first client. Just give me $16,000 worth of training. Let me know how this works out. So again, I saw that as another door that opened. It could have shut pretty closed, you know, very tight, but it kept opening and opening and opening. And then all of a sudden, once we opened shop, people just started coming in naturally. I didn't do any marketing initially into it all. It was just more of this word of mouth that, hey, there's something that's happening. It's a little bit different. It's a different model than what's happening over, you know, down the street. And I think that was that deep-seated sense of like, you know what, everything has opened up to this day, you know, way back and then, to get me to where I'm at. As long as I keep following this path and I keep asking these questions of what if, I think, you know, things are going to keep happening. And throughout the years, we've asked that question multiple times, and we've tried some different stuff in the fitness world, and it's worked. And, you know, to the extent that it doesn't work, we shut it down and we move on to the next thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it sounds so, you know, kind of wacky or kooky, if you will.
Yeah,
but it's like you get clear on what you want. It's like that the universe just pays that path, man. I love it.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
okay, so when it came to picking that location, or when you're looking at identifying a location, because this is something that we see, a lot of gym owners, but other, restaurant owners, a lot of people get wrong, right? Because they just think it's a good location, or it's convenient, or they get a good lease. But they really haven't done their research. Hey, does this fit my ideal client? Does this fit my avatar? What are some of the things that you do to make sure it is the right location to have the success like you've had?
I think for us, a lot of people use brokers, to go out there, find them that spot. Hey, this is it. This is perfect. It fits everything that you're looking for. But I think from the entrepreneurial side, if you're not looking to go out for thousands of locations, if it's, if you're looking for one or two, maybe five different types of shops, it's truly as that entrepreneur going to that space and saying, does it fit your personality? Because I think the business ends up becoming just an extension of the entrepreneur. For me, I'm a little bit more low key. I don't like the hustle and bustle of it all. I'm not a rah type of guy. I don't like big groups from fitness, from a workout standpoint, and even just that general of that. I'm low key. So for me, it was to find that city of Houston, is the fourth largest city in America. It's not the easiest thing to do to find a strip center off the beaten path. Everything's out on the big freeways. It's jam packed with lots of people. So I said, no, I'm going to hold off till I find this right location. And when it's there, when I found it, I sat there with it and said, does this feel right? And again, it comes down to your gut and going to, do you trust your gut enough to say that this is right? And I think when it lines with you as the entrepreneur, as the leader, as the person who's going to be overseeing this, the ideal clientele will be within that area because they're going to seek out a spot like that you're looking for. Again, for me, it was more of the low key setting. We wanted to attract a little bit more low key type of clientele that still were looking to get fit, but they just didn't want all the excitement and the rah stuff that typically comes along with going to work out.
Yeah. So when you talk about identifying your model, and I know it's a unique model from what you see out there, because the fitness space, it's a competitive space, and you got your Planet Fitnesses of the world that $10 a month, stuff them in there, whatever. Like, how did it evolve over time? How did you separate yourself? And again, did the way that you separate yourself evolve over time as you've been doing this, or is it the same model that you started with?
I think we've fine-tuned it over the years. That's really it. I'm a big Seth Godin fan, and what he talks about all the time is about just creating art. And what we've done throughout the years is to say, hey, our boundaries, so to say, are 30-minute sessions, in which a lot of people are like, oh, that's just a bunch of, the curves model from way back a long time ago. It's a bunch of fluff. People call it the express sessions. But we looked at it and said, no. I said, we're delivering something that's truly unique. We're giving people their time back. And I don't think people really appreciated enough the fact that we are strapped for time. Like, we don't have the time to be able to go sit in traffic to get to our workout, to spend an hour there, to sit in the traffic on the way back home, to shower, to clean. It's a 2-hour kind of ordeal for an hour-long session. But what we've said is, hey, we have these boundaries of 30-minute sessions. Can we go out and create art within this session? Could we become so remarkable that people will just go, wow, that was different? And it started with going, hey, do we dial this back and relearn our fundamentals again? How can we push people to say, let's make it cool to sleep a full 7 hours at night versus sleeping the 5 hours and then bragging about it the next day? So I'm like, hey, that's the quickest way to burn out. That's the quickest way to a stroke, to a heart attack, to unfortunately maybe passing away at the end of it all. But it's like, how can we take these things that are not cool and make them cool? And we started first with our team. Does our team buy into this? Are we sleeping, eating the same way that we talk to our clients, and do we train the same way? So again, our combination is we start preaching the sleep from the start. We look at the training aspect of it all and say, if the sleeping's right, you don't have to train as much. Then we go to the food. We built a kitchen inside our small little training facility to teach people how to cook. And everybody's like, you don't have time to cook anymore. I'm like, people have time to cook. They just don't make it a priority, or they're like too scared, or I'm not confident in the kitchen. What if my family doesn't like whatever? So what we try to do is take away all those excuses by putting a kitchen in there and say, hey, you can learn directly from some of the top chefs here in Houston. We bring in small farmers. We let them people get to know each other and create this community with it. So again, we're trying to make it cool from the sleep and from the food. And then the training, again, we always say it's icing on the cake. When you sleep right, when you train, when you eat right, you don't have to train that much. And to the people that we are speaking to, that kind of 25 to maybe 45, 55-year-old person, like they're strapped for time. They got careers. They're trying to grow families. They got mortgages. They have all these things they're trying to do. And then here's the fitness world saying, no, you got to go for an hour. If you don't go for an hour and if you don't kill yourself every single time you walk in the gym, that's not a true workout. So again, we're just trying to go against the grain a little bit. It goes back to that, asking that question, what if we started to ask this different question about what does it truly mean to live fit and healthy, and does more time equal better health? And we've kind of seen, hey, you know what? It doesn't. When you get the fundamentals right, when you get the basics right, the rest of it's so easy to do.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is like we kind of said earlier, you got to untrain and unlearn all the things that you thought you knew. So when you get somebody that's coming in, let's say they're a first-time client that maybe has some experience, but they're strapped for the time. We're talking about 30-minute sessions. I mean, let's kind of break that down. Like, what would be ideal? Somebody that's listening is because, I mean, our listener base are entrepreneurs. They're that executive that comes into you and like, man, I'm busy. Dude, I'm sleeping 5 hours because I don't have 8 a night, Right. And what does that look like? Because they may think, well, shit, I don't have time to do this. But if you're 3, 4 30-minute sessions, I mean, is that enough?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it is, because you look at this and say, hey, to those hard chargers, the entrepreneurs, always look at it and say there's seasons of life. There's seasons when you're putting in the 5 hours. You got to do it. I mean, that's just part of it. But then there's also seasons when you can pull out of that and refocus again back onto the sleep. But for us, we look at our 30-minute sessions. We do an initial screen. We make sure all these things, there's no red flags, there's no injuries, pre-existing stuff kind of ahead of time. We also, before we get rolling into our first training session, we have a lifestyle session, because we really want to sit down and say, hey, the most important thing that you can do coming in here is to refocus back on that sleep, is to refocus back on that food. Because whether you're training with us for 30 minutes or you go somewhere else and you train for an hour, if you don't sleep and eat right, you're still not going to see what you really truly is, you want to see happen. So again, our first of our 30-minute sessions, we always say everything's going to be specific to you. So if you're walking in here with me and I'm going to say, hey, Josh, you're like, let's just kill it. Let's just go. We can push the intensity, kind of hard. Have a 5-minute little warm up that we do, dynamic stuff, kind of get you moving, and then we roll right into the session. Depending, again, we always ask this question: which problem are we trying to solve? Because a lot of people will go into the gym and they're like, I'm trying to do fat loss, I'm trying to build muscle, I'm trying to work on this, I'm trying to work on that. We just say, hey, no, what problem are you trying to solve? If it's trying to build muscle, obviously that shifts the focus of how we move about the next 25, 30 minutes, so to say. If you're trying to go for fat loss, it's a completely different path. So again, if you talk about in the real estate world, where you're trying to look at somebody, get them into a condo versus a townhome versus just a single family home. It's like they're different paths. There's different ways that you get people into those areas. And that's the same thing with the training sessions of, hey, look, just because there's one problem they're trying to solve, we got to stay on this one path. We don't just try to keep, it's not like a buffet where you just grab a little bit of this and grab a little bit of that. And I think that's what the fitness world has kind of fallen into.
Yeah, I love it, man. What would you say, with your personal experience, the percentage of the resistance weight training, working out compared to diet? Because we see it all the time where the the guy or girls in the gym, and they're killing it. They're working their butts off, but they just never seem to get results because that they might be sloppy or loose with their calories that they're choosing to consume. So what's some advice there? And what percentage do you think that really? Yeah.
This sounds kind of hippie-ish, I guess, but the training and the nutrition battle has been back and forth. You hear some people say 70-30, 80-20. Some people say it's 95-5. Who knows what camp that you fall into? But I think what the biggest thing that we underestimate is the effect of stress on our body, and the effect of what that does internally to basically hold things. When you've kind of fallen into this super stress, you're not sleeping, you don't eat well, you're super stressed at work, then you go to the gym and you try to crush it at the gym. You just do, it's this continuous drip of stress all throughout your life. And then from there, but basically the body never gets out of this fight or flight mode. And then so when you're in that fight or flight, it's basically, hey, you know what, we got to stay and fight it out, or I'm going to take off and running. But the trouble is most of us live in this mental state of stress, not a physical state like it used to back in the day where, big animal's going to eat you. You got to take off running, or you're going to turn and fight it. Now it's all up into here. So we don't have that physical exertion out on all this stress. So can we get rid of that internal stress that's going on? Start to really understand. Think about how many people are in relationships that are bad for them, that they try to use fitness as the outlet. Oh, I'm going to go crush it at the gym because problems at home. We see this all the time. They come into the gym. There's trouble at work. They come to the gym and then they try to work it all out through here. So they're using fitness as an outlet for a true problem. So it's like putting Band-Aid on, a severe cut on your body. It's not going to do anything. It's going to slow the bleeding down for a little bit. But until we dial it back and start to truly kind of address the problem, which it's not cool to talk about it in the magazines or on the TV shows, or it's not cool for celebrities to say, hey, I actually had to deal with some of my problems. That's how I actually got to this point. It wasn't some new workout method. If you want to Zumba it up. If you want to go, and do some kind of workout class, go do it. If you want to go run, go run. But it has to boil down to the fundamentals of, are you dealing with that stress in the life already? And it's not the, kind of the life coaching side of me right now, but it's looking at it going, there's a lot of loveless marriages that are out there that, again, they use food to comfort them. They use, the work side of things. I'm not where I wanted to be at this stage of life right now with Facebook and social media. It's the selfies of trying to live up to others' expectations that then depress you, that you eat a certain way, that you feel stressed a certain way. So, it's not to kind of sidestep the true problem. It goes back to the food. But when you're stressed, you don't sleep well. When you don't sleep well, the hormonal response is bad in the body when it comes to eating. So you don't want good food. You want sugary foods that make you feel comforted. And then all of a sudden you go to the gym and I got to crush myself because I didn't eat well. Well, you didn't eat well because you didn't sleep well. You didn't sleep well because you're stressed. So again, it's that kind of vicious circle of, where do we stop and say, hey, this is what I truly need to address? It's that little kind of small voice in your head, that's going, hey, this is a problem and you can't solve it any other way but to address it, work with someone, to kind of get through this stage of life.
Yeah, and where you're at now with these 30-minute sessions where people may think it's not enough. And before you started this, when you were doing too much, we see that so often too, right? People overtraining, not consuming enough calories. What should we be paying attention? Because I see it all the time, especially in women. They're over-cardioing it heavily. They're not consuming enough calories. What's some general rules of thumb that you would give advice there for somebody that's kind of that extreme like you used to be?
I think it's just step back and go, is it working? I think that's really what it is. You have to look at it and say, and what I'm doing right now, is it currently working for me? When I was in that stage of, doing the marathons and working out for hours and hours and hours, like literally I was trying to look like a cover model on a magazine because that's what every guy wants to look like, right? And then at the time I look at myself and I'm like, I look nothing. I look like a twig in a t-shirt. It was nothing to what I really wanted to do. I was flabby. I was at that point that if I had a shirt on, you couldn't tell, but like you take it off and you're like, there is no muscle structure to you whatsoever, which is that typical response of, hey, when I'm working out too much and I'm overstressed, your body turns around and kind of starts to eat away at the muscle. It doesn't want to give the muscle the food and the energy that it needs to grow. It says, hey, I got to conserve this for other things, more vital things that are happening inside the body because
all right, so we're still recording here. So where I lost you was you were just starting to explain the look, right? Of okay, like you were overexerting yourself, under consuming calories. You weren't having the look that you want, and just paying attention to your body and how you're feeling.
Yeah. So, it basically boils down to the simple fact that, I wasn't happy with who I was, with the way I was training. And, it finally kind of hit me and said, you know what, maybe all this running stuff isn't the right way for me to go. Maybe I need to slow down a little bit. Maybe I need to step back and kind of go, what is it? All this stuff I used to learn in school about what it truly means to be fit and healthy. Maybe I need to go back and revisit all that stuff. And when I did, I started to realize that, man, I'm not sleeping right. I was sleeping about maybe 5.5 hours a night. I was just crushing my body left and right here, trying to be an overachiever, thinking that was the way I needed to grow my business. And, from there, I stepped back and kind of going, well, what about my food? What does my food look like? And it was the typical marathoner diet of, just pasta and pizza and cereal and bagels, because that's what you can do when you run that far, because it gives you the green light. And so I thought that's what I needed to fuel me to go that far. So I think it's just every once in a while, stop, check it and go, is this truly working for me? And then even if it is working for you and you've done it for longer than 12 weeks, it's time to transition over to a different style of training. Not to say that it's wrong what you're currently doing, but look at a professional athlete and go, there's an off season, there's a preseason, there's an in season, there's a championship season, there's that postseason side of it all. And if we don't continuously keep cycling our bodies through it, you might be able to maintain that for a couple of years, but eventually that's when injuries start to creep in and you start to get sick more often because, again, we're just doing the same thing over and over and over again, year after year. And it really starts to add up on your body after a while.
So, I know you work with a lot of very successful entrepreneurs, executives out there, and I'm sure they're always trying to biohack certain things, right? So you talk about sleep, and we're always searching for that answer, like wearing like these blue light eliminating glasses, and eating clean, and taking certain supplements before you go to bed to try to minimize the amount of sleep. With all of your research that you've done, is there a way to hack it? Or is it like, dude, just don't even screw with it, just get to sleep?
Yeah, I mean, the simplest hack is what you learned as a little kid. Like everybody had a bedtime routine as a kid, but as adults, we don't. We just crash into bed. Yeah, but as opposed to when you have kids, all of a sudden you're like, okay, little Johnny needs to do this. You need to brush your teeth first. We need to do this. We need to do this. Get your drink of water, lay in bed, read your books. Like we have that routine that you did as a kid, and that set your body up to start preparing to go to sleep. Whereas with adults, we'll stay on the phone in bed, doing work emails, doing work in the bed. And then all of a sudden you're like, crap, I'm tired. You either fell asleep and it slapped you in the face, or you just fell asleep and you set it off to the side. And the next thing you woke up, it's an hour later and you're like, oh crap, I got to get back to bed. So I think it's a matter of just set up that routine, set up that bedtime routine. I mean, there are the glasses, which out there, I have not used them, but I've read a lot about them. They said they do work. There's orange tint type of apps that you can get for your computers that dim the light at certain times. But I think the most basic one out of them all, again, it goes back to the fundamentals of just recreate that bedtime routine you used to have as a kid. And if you have kids right now, think about the bedtime routine that you've given them and just go, oh, I can just do that for myself. I can create that little bedtime routine. The ideal thing is to go to bed every night at the same time, wake up every day at the same time. I know that's unrealistic. But the one thing that you can control is that bedtime routine. So if one day you're going to bed at 10, it's the routine. If you're going to bed the next night at 12, it's the routine. Can you still follow that routine of going down to bed, doing the same process over and over again? It creates that habit. And when you create that habit, your body starts to have that learned response of, okay, now it's time to go to bed. Let's signal all the hormones to start doing what it is that they need to do.
Yeah, and I agree with that, man. I found like even on the weekends, I've learned I just got to wake up at the same time because if I don't, it just screws me up. If I sleep in a couple hours because I feel like I may need it, it just feels like it screws me up more.
Yep.
Now, is there some things because we I think we've all probably had it where we get the adequate sleep, but we still feel like shit. Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, is there anything else that you guys look at or track? There's a lot of different apps out there for getting into REM sleep, or because a lot of people they're trying to get the hours, man, but they just have insomnia. They just can't get into a good sleep cycle. Is there any recommendations you have there?
And again, it goes back to the simple basic stuff of, can you create that bedtime routine, but also can you make your room as cold as possible? You look at insomnia and they say some of the best steps to cure insomnia is to start your AC at about 72 and then start dropping it below that. Can you get to 70? Can you get to 68? Can you get to 66? Can you get to 65? The sad part about it is it gets expensive if you have to get it down too low. But you start to think through is like, can I create that cool environment? Because what happens with insomnia is the brain is constantly racing, meaning that the body temperature is staying elevated throughout the night, which wakes you up because your body's just warm. So a nice cool environment allows the body to go to sleep, allows the brain to kind of slow down and go to sleep again. Making sure that the bed is set up, darkness, can you get your room completely dark is an ideal situation. And this is something for me, I'm a very hot sleeper. Like if I just put on a sheet and a light blanket, I sweat throughout the night. And this just happened just the other day. We were at a bed place and I'm asking some questions about it all. And they said, look, once you get above 400 count on your thread count on your sheets, like the weave of the sheet becomes very tight. It doesn't let heat out as much. So it says, even though it feels super nice, he said, you want to keep your thread count down low because more air will escape through the sheet. And I'm like, that's perfect. That's one of those things that you have to look at and say, wow, that's truly interesting. I never would have thought of something like that. But again, if you're a hot sleeper, it's something that you go, I got to think about these things to go, how can I cool myself down? Again, go back into the biohacking stuff, create your routine, get the place, cold enough, and then you'll naturally fall asleep pretty quickly.
Love it, man. So what do you feel is the importance of resistance training for everyone? Because, we see, a lot of people say, well, whatever you want to do, if it's spin class or if it's running, just pick your poison, but I see a lot of people then not incorporating any type of resistance training. Yeah. If you had to pick one path, I mean, do you feel resistance training is the most important?
it's hard to say. It's hard to put your finger on it and say, hey, one thing is the right way, is the end all be all. Because I'm sure there's people out there that could research it and find cases of people that were exception to the rules. But I think if you can find that healthy balance of both of them, you can't hang your hat on one thing and say, hey, it's the only thing. But that goes back into saying, hey, I'm only going to do a spin class, and they only fall into spin, or they only fall into doing only like a Zumba type of stuff. Or on the flip side, they only lift. So again, it could be just as bad as if you're only lifting and not kind of having that combination of the two. I mean, the body's this magical thing that's saying, hey, you are heart and muscles. You're not just heart and you're not just muscle. And just saying that you got to have the muscles to feel good, to get up. You don't have the aches and pains to look good. I mean, vanity is the number one thing, right? We all want to look good when we have our shirt off. We all want to look good if we go to the beach. We want to feel confident in our own skin. But I think also on the flip side of the thing, the physiology side of it all, the nerdy kind of like, let's understand the heart. Like if that thing doesn't tick, like you're not breathing for very long. So you can't neglect both sides of the equation. I think you got to have a healthy balance of the two. If you want to, again, go through a season of, I'm going to go more towards the conditioning aspect of things. I don't really say cardio because I think cardio is such this misinterpreted word. So if you want to think about conditioning and trying to spend more time in spin and short agility type of work, then you can kind of lay off the lifting for a little bit, go lighter. Then you can go season back over to the lifting heavy and then do lighter on the conditioning aspect of it all. But I think, again, it comes with that ebb and flow of, are you listening to your body? Are you smart enough to say, today I feel like crap, I'm just going to go lift. Or today I feel really good, I'm going to go and kill myself outside. But it's becoming self-aware to say, how does my body feel at this moment? And then being honest and true to it and say, I'm going to own it, for that day, and be okay with whatever it is that you're doing, in that moment.
Yeah, love it, man. So, all right, dude. So, I know that now you're out there speaking and you wrote a book. Let's start with the book first, man. What inspired you to write the book? Yeah. And, how did that all come about?
Yeah. Well, it was kind of an encouragement through a coach I'd been working with for a while. I had worked with kind of a leadership type coach for about 5 years. And he said, he basically threw it out to me one day. He goes, I think you got a book in you. And I kind of laughed it off and didn't really think much of it. I said, I just have this little story and it's not worth really telling. And he goes, no, I think more people need to hear it. I think more people need to understand that there was this period of what we kind of talked about earlier. There was this wilderness journey for 4 years because people are going to look at you and say, well, you own a gym. You've always been fit. Fitness is easy for you. You know how to do it. You always go to bed at the same time. You eat the same thing. You needed to let people into that world. And so through that kind of encouragement through him, he started asking me that question, say, hey, what's your purpose? What's your purpose? What's your purpose for doing all this stuff? And he kept coming back to that over and over and over again. And, we took the word purpose and broke it down into a little bit of an acronym and used that throughout the book. And there's 7 chapters of the book, and it all revolves around these 2 questions of what's your purpose in life? And then how can being fit and healthy help you accomplish that purpose? It really truly understand, and I think step back and, it's now, that was probably about 5 years ago or so since we wrote it last. I probably would change a few things into it just because purpose, I think, has been smashed. Everybody talks about it now, and I think it's just been watered down. So again, when people are listening, they're like, oh God, here's another book on all this stuff. But mine's just taking that angle into saying, hey, like you have to be fit and healthy to be able to get to a point to where you can start to accomplish that purpose. And I think that purpose is some people say, hey, it's an overarching thing. This is the theme of my life. And then other people have purpose for a season of their life. I'm gonna roll into this. Maybe it's a career. Maybe just like yourself, you told me, you said, hey, you used to be in the fitness world and then you moved into the real estate world. And then now you're kind of a hybrid of both. And now you're podcasting and coaching and doing all the different. It's like there was a purpose at time. What did that fitness season of life bring you to? And then you moved into the real estate. So I think that's what I think I probably would have done a better job in the book of explaining, hey, there's different seasons. And right now for me, it's I've got young kids, I've got a family, I've got a growing business. This purpose for me right now is trying to share this message with enough other people to say, I'm in the thick of it all. I'm trying to grow a business. I'm trying to raise a family. And I'm still trying to stay fit and healthy on the flip side. And there's a unique way to do it. And it still accomplishes your goal, because sometimes you gotta brag, humble brag every once in a while, but you can throw it down and say, hey, I'm still as fit as I was at 21 and now at 37. But all I do is 30-minute workouts, and people are going to play it off and say, oh, you can't look that way. You can't have the body that you want and do all this stuff. And so the book is there to kind of say, hey, here's a little bit of hope. If you start asking these questions, it's an uncomfortable question to ask. What's that purpose? Because people have to sit down and wrestle with, what is it? What is my life accomplished, and what do I want to accomplish? Because some people may not be happy with where they're at, and then some people are like, cool, this is exactly where I want it to be.
Yeah, I love it, man. I mean, the reality is you can't serve others at the highest level unless you serve yourself first, and it's
Right.
it's like Richard Branson, Forbes asked him, what's like the one piece of advice you'd give entrepreneurs in their life, and he's like, work out. Right? It's so critical, and these hard drivers will think, oh, well, I just don't have time for it. Well, if you make time for it, man, you have so much more energy and clarity and confidence to go out there and accomplish everything else. I think it's so critical. I know the book's on Amazon. We'll have a link. We'll make it easier to those that are watching, listening, link below where you can just click, go get the book right away. What's the name of the book?
Purpose.
Okay.
It's a simple path. The subtitle is "Simple Path to a Better Life," and it's, again, keep it short and sweet and simple. And to kind of back up what you just said there about, a lot of people will use, when they're young, they use their youth to acquire their wealth, but when they're older, they're going to use their wealth to acquire back their youth again. So it's this yin and yang as we forget about it. It's like, what happens when you neglect this for 20 years and all of a sudden you're 40 or you're 50 or you might be 60, you're like, crap. And I got to reinvest all this money again to go back to doctors, to go back to trainers, to go through all this hard time of, hey, I thought I was going to work so hard to be able to travel and spend all this time with family. Now you're like, no, I can't. I got to go sit in waiting rooms. And sometimes I've got to go to operating rooms to get things fixed. Or, it's not comfortable for me to sit in an airplane seat for long periods of time. Like, it's just like, can we keep both sides of the equation in check? There's no balance to things. There's no work-life balance, I don't feel. I think it's a matter of you're constantly in one phase. It's a season. Right now you're working hard. Family may have to take a back seat for a short period of time, but then the family is going to take a front seat and the work's going to take a back seat. But to the extent that you honor that and appreciate that, things will work out for you in the end.
Yeah, and let's talk about that. That was going to be my second follow-up question. I had one before that, but I want to go into that since you brought that up. Because, dude, I mean, you're a busy cat, right? So you're busy running businesses, writing books, speaking, but you also are leveling up in your marriage, leveling up as a father, leveling up in your health. People always have this excuse that they don't have time, which is just utter BS. How
Right.
do you intentionally make the time so you're not dropping or missing out on one of those aspects of your life that's important to you?
I think it's just, you just have to make it a priority. It boils down to, it sounds so simple and you hear it said that way all the time, but it's one of those things you go, with my wife and I, we work side by side. We have worked side by side for the past 10 and a half years. And so you go, when you're working in a small space and you share a desk at the office and, you drive to work together, you drive home together. I mean, there's a lot of together time. We could get together in the evenings and completely neglect us. And then what's that going to do for our two young girls? So we've set time in our schedule to say every Friday we're going to have a date. And we used to do it in the evening, and then it was so hard to schedule babysitters, and babysitters would cancel, and then we got out of it. And then all of a sudden we're like, we could always do lunch on a Friday. Yeah. So we just made it a priority to say every Friday at 1 o'clock we go to the same place, sit at the bar, and almost probably order the same thing every time. But that's our window, our 2-hour window from 1 to 3 till we go pick up our girls, to say that's us. That's that reconnecting time again, but we've made it a priority. Some things with the scheduling and stuff too, as well, to say that, things might be busy, but I am reserved 2 evenings a week that I am at home from 3 o'clock on. I'm always here on Tuesday, Thursday evenings with the girls. I'm helping out around the house. I'm being part of their lives. And we're doing the things that they're doing, taking them to school or picking them up from school, doing stuff that I think it's truly so important that when you get later on in life and you look back and you're like, damn, I wish I would have done that more. Even though sometimes it's annoying when you're sitting in the elementary school, pickup line and you see your kid come running out, but it's the coolest feeling in the world though when she runs out and she just wants to give you a big hug, love on you, kiss on you. And then you look at it and I look across the room and I see so many dads that are there with their phones and they're just walking down the hallway. And I know they're texting back and forth with work because they're annoyed to be there. And you're just like, you only have these precious moments for so long. Like before long, when she hits about 10, 11, 12, I'm probably not going to be the first person she wants to run to because she's probably going to hate me at that point. There's going to go that seasons of love and hate. But right now, it's like, why not soak it up? And I can say work will always come. I can always go back to work and grow something bigger. If I could become smart like yourself and turn something into an online world, I could learn to work smarter. I could have more time that I could do freedom stuff like this, in my schedule. But are you making it a priority? And to say that, when you make it a priority, your team makes it a priority. And when your team makes it a priority, they show up to work in a little bit better state. They're healthy too as well. And then in turn, they can serve the community in which we serve in a so much, I think, stronger, more authentic, more of an energized state because their lives are strong, their relationships are strong, their family is strong. They come to work, they bring a whole different person. And I think really what we're trying to do at the gym is to be an example of that for people, kind of in this busy, crazy, stressed out world.
Yeah, I love it, man. So, we have a lot of listeners that are husband and wife teams inside their business and whatever business venture they're in. And there, I mean, it's great, but it does pose challenges. So when you guys have your, Friday date time, do you have any like rules that you follow? Like, we are not allowed to talk about work, or how do you separate? Because my wife and I, same thing. I mean, she's involved in multiple of our businesses and also is at home with our 3 kids, but it gets tough. Like when we're together, even if we have a weekend away, it's so focused on work sometimes, and you got to like set those rules, dude. Right?
Yeah. You have the rules, but I think that you constantly break them. Yeah. And so you try to be healthy about it all. Sometimes if we have something pressing that we really, truly need to kind of work through, we'll say, hey, look, let's give it 30 minutes. Once we get through with that 30 minutes, it's done. Let's just hang it up. Let's be here. Let's just, kind of set that aside. But I think one thing that we did that was truly unique early on in our business relationship and our marriage. I mean, we literally got married 5 months after I opened the gym. So, I mean, like since day one, our marriage and our business have been one. We looked at it, we invested in a coach, and it wasn't therapy. It wasn't couples therapy. It wasn't, we were having problems, we went and saw a counselor. We invested in, and the leadership coach that I was working with also did couples coaching. And so we sat down and we said, we work side by side every single day. We need to understand each other on a whole different level, because I need to understand what makes her tick. She needs to understand what makes me tick. So we sat down and went through the personality assessment stuff, did the Myers-Briggs. But I began to understand her in a whole different light, that she is a very detail-oriented person. She has a checklist, and if she doesn't have a checklist, she'll write it down on the checklist just to check it off the box, so she can be like, yeah, that I did it. I accomplished that for the day. For me, bigger picture, the details and the checklist really frustrate me. I'm just like, why do you have to do it that way? Why don't you just do a little bit over here, do a little bit over here, but eventually at the end of the day, it will all get accomplished. She looks at everything in a very linear fashion, and I'm kind of all over the map, but eventually, again, at the end of the day, it will all be marked off, her list. And so until we begin to understand that, there was a lot of tension, I think, back and forth. And then also now at work, I'm like, she has her role that's truly unique to her strengths. I have my role that's unique to my strengths, which is, that's simple, kind of key results areas, the KPI stuff that everybody talks about. But I think it's like, is it true to you? I started looking at it going, what doesn't work for me is more of the accounting detail aspect of things. I can step in on a monthly meeting, make sure everything's good. I don't need to know the day-to-day side of it all, because that's her specialty. And I think more that we invested in that. We literally went through a period of 5 years where every single month we were meeting with him, just from a coaching standpoint. We could work through problems if we had problems, but also we gained this deeper understanding of each other, that now here we are, again, 10 and a half years into this process, that I just know my boundaries. She knows her boundaries. I don't step into her playing field. She doesn't step into mine. She's learned to trust me when I start to have kind of these big pictures. But then on the flip side, I have to trust her, because she said, we don't have the money yet for that. We got to save a little bit for that. We got to wait a little bit. We need to bring in more here. So it's that yin and the yang of we've developed that self-awareness that what is her strengths, what are my strengths. But it was through continuous, again, making it a priority of this monthly coaching over that 5-year period that has put us, I think, in a good, healthy spot we're at today.
So, a lot of people in the fitness space, but we see this for every industry, not just the fitness space, but, they might go to club industries and do things that are very, very specific to, the industry that they're in, but they don't always reach out for outside coaching. So with that outside coaching, that you've had, how important do you feel that's played in the success that you guys have been able to create?
Yeah. I think it's the number one part of it. It was so important that once I got in there, I got into the routine of it. I saw the benefits that it was given to me. Obviously, I brought my wife into the equation, and we said, hey, this is important for us from a couple standpoint, from just leading this business. Then all of a sudden, we're like, our team's getting involved with this too as well. So we signed all of our team up to start working with him too as well. Again, it's just an outsider's perspective. I could have, as the leader, start to meet with my team on an individual basis, which I do. But then I think to go deep in some of the stuff, your team may just not feel comfortable sharing with you. But there's a neutral player. Someone say, hey, look, it's complete confidentiality with me. I don't share with anything that we talk about. And then all of a sudden we started seeing, hey, you know what? It's working so well for my wife and I as far as a couple goes. Why don't we invest in this for our team as a couple as well? Those that are married, why don't we give them a gift of this? So we gave them all, gifts of 3 months or 6 months. Those that just got married, we said, hey, you're going to want to use this. You may not think that you think you're perfect right now, but you're going to want to use this. So we invested into that for them, for their couples coaching, because we knew if their relationship was good at home, they're only going to come and show up to work that much stronger, and be able to connect with people again, because we're in the fitness business, we're in the service business, we're face to face all day long. If there's something that's in the back of your head because you and your wife or you and your husband are kind of like at wit's end with each other, it's going to come across in your sessions, and you're connecting with people, and people are just going to say, hey, so there's something off with you. So I think it's just, again, goes back into making it a priority that, this coaching we feel is truly valuable, and that every new person that comes onto our team, they get sessions with, working with the coach that we use, and allow him to kind of just work with them and help them gain that understanding and the realizations of, who they truly are and how they can bring that to the team on a day-to-day basis, and how they could use that to serve, our community even better.
Yeah, I love it. It's like you said earlier, there's no such thing as work-life balance all life, right? So just integrate it all, So I love
the way you roll,
man.
Yeah.
So, all right, dude, like what keeps you personally leveling up in life? Because we find that good becomes the worst enemy to greatness. It's really easy to get caught up in the good enough, and not keep pushing and keep striving for more greatness in your world. What keeps you pushing for more?
I think it goes back into asking that question, what if? Like I've always kind of said, hey, what if we do it this way? What if we try this? What if we do that? That comes back to my grandfather constantly always, kind of playing with things. I go to his house and you're like, what mad scientist stuff did he think of now? I mean, stuff that just didn't make sense. But, so I think that was ingrained into me early on. But I heard a talk a long time ago. It was at church one time, and he's basically talking about, can you find the balance between being content and ambitious at the same time? He goes, you can't be so ambitious that it drives you off the cliff, but you also can't be so content that you sit back and you eat bonbons all day long and expect great things to happen. So knowing that there has to be those periods of super ambition, and then there has to be those times of being content and sit back and say, yeah, it's really cool what we've done. Like, we've done something really cool. And I have a hard time with that part of stepping back and saying, hey, what we've done is great. Always looking and say, it could be better. This could be better. This could be better. So I don't slow down to celebrate the small wins. But my wife does a great job of coming beside me and say, hey, we really need to celebrate this. Like, let's go out as a team. And so I'm like, we don't need to celebrate anything. Let's just go. She says, no, I think this is a great win. This is perfect. This is what we've been here to do. This is that big win. Let's go do it. So I have a healthy kind of, sidekick in this, that she's always that constant reminder to me. But again, for me, it goes back into my personality. I'm a very big picture thinker. So sometimes I don't slow down long enough to say, let's celebrate that small win, because that was truly unique. Again, we hit 10 years of business, and I didn't really see it that big of a deal. I was like, I expected to be here. Why should we go out and celebrate stuff like this? But my wife was like, no. She goes, let's go big. And I, well, what are you talking about? She goes, let's go to Vegas. Let's take the team on a surprise trip to Vegas. So we did. We popped in a plane and took them all over there, and had fun for a couple of days. But it's those little celebrations that I think, if you have that healthy sidekick or someone that's constantly reminding you and saying, hey, slow down a little bit, whether it's a spouse or a business partner or whatever it might be, listen to them enough, because it's fun when you slow down and celebrate the wins. It's enjoyable. You get to see smiles on everybody's faces, and I think they really get to begin to understand what it is that they're truly there to do.
Yep, I love it, man. So knowing what you know today, if something happened and your business got wiped out, right? Family's good, health's good, all that's great. But now, after a decade of doing this, you've retained all the knowledge that you've learned, but you're starting from scratch, rebuilding from scratch from over. What's the first few things you do, knowing what you know now, that you go out there and do to rebuild what you've built?
I think you go back into finding that key location, as we talked about way back in the day, way back at the beginning of the interview, is to say, is like, could I find that right spot and not just jump into something as quick as possible? I know a lot of people are like, I'll just get right back up tomorrow and open up shop again and go at it. I think I would spend some time going, hey, especially in our field, in the fitness world, it's one of those things that they're just popping up on every corner. I mean, it's like a coffee shop now. It's everywhere you go. So I think can I be a little bit more strategic in how I look at this space and going, is that the right spot for it? I would still bring the same model. I'd still bring that 30-minute aspect of things. But I think what I would do initially, is I would build the team. Is we've focused on this probably for about the past 6 years of looking at our team as leaders, not just trainers. I think trainers are just rep counters, and that's what you do. You show up, you work out, whatever. But I think in essence, people are truly coming in, they're signing up, they're investing in your leadership. And they're saying, hey, I just need you to lead me, hold me accountable, and deliver these results. And for us, we look at it and said, leaders are supposed to deliver results in a very efficient manner, which is true for leadership in any kind of background or business. And for us, we say the better leaders that we become, the better results that we can deliver when it comes to having a tough conversation with a client because they're, maybe not eating so well and trying to like fib it a little bit. Or maybe it's that encouragement. Maybe it's understanding their style is a little bit different than your style. So I think it's really going, that leadership aspect of what we do is truly unique. And I don't think it's something that's hit upon enough in our industry to understand that, that training department, that training team, the individual trainers that might work for you, they are just leaders. And that's what we're going to do. But most of the time we treat them like they're just, $5 an hour work. It's just like, I just show up, train the people and take them from machine to machine and you're good to go. There's such this big psychological aspect of what's going on up there. So again, I would invest in the right space, take the time to find that right space. And then as we grow the team, it's looking at it saying, hey, can we find the right leaders that are going to come on, not just the right trainers that are there to kind of grow a sustainable career with us, not just I'm here for a hobby, here for a couple of years, and I'm, kind of out the door type of stuff. So I think that's what builds a truly sustainable business is having those people stay with you for long periods of time. They may not stay in the same role, they might evolve, but it is something that I think that they truly would begin to people appreciate. They want to reinvest in a business that's there for a long term and people that are the same faces. That's why everybody loved like Cheers back in the day. I mean, it's like Norm, every time he walked in the door, no matter what kind of feeling it was, everybody yelled out Norm when he walked in because they all knew him. Like it was the same faces that were in there every single time they walked in, and people want that. They're striving. They're longing for that day to feel known again. And I think in the fitness world, if you can create that feeling of comfort for people, that will become part of their habit, become part of their routine, and they're going to want to come back and reinvest, in what you're doing.
Yeah, I love it, man. And then the world that we're in today, where it's just a numbers game. Most gyms you go to, you're treated that way. Most personal trainers look like they've never worked out themselves, right? So I love what you guys are doing, because it's not. I mean, it shows that you truly care. I mean, when you have a kitchen in there and you're teaching a lifestyle, that's powerful stuff. So, If our listeners want to learn more about you, go learn more about the book. We have a lot of listeners in the Houston, Texas area. If they want to come check out your facility, what's the best way to get a hold of you, Brent, and learn more about you?
You can pop over to the website, BrentGallagher.com. I'm sure you can probably put a link to it there. From a social side of things, I'm a big Instagram guy. I love pictures. So, everything will pop through on the other feeds, whether it's Twitter or whether it's Facebook or something like that. But if you go over to Instagram, it's Brent Gallagher Fit, F-I-T, at the end of that, and that will connect me over there. So that's where I've hung my hat on my platform, so to say, that I truly enjoy. But the other ones too as well, all the other feeds will kind of go through all that stuff. But if you're in the Houston area, obviously come by. We got people that stop by all the time, kind of unannounced, and they're like, hey man, I heard you on a podcast or something. I just want to come check out the place. I think it's one of those things that's truly unique what we've done. Not to give a selfish self plug here on this one, but I think our training space is something that when you walk into it, you're like, this is just different. That's what most people say. It's like, this isn't what I expected. Even though we're a small 4,500 square foot space, we brought in a unique concept. We brought in restaurant designers to design our space because they know how it's supposed to look and to feel. And so we want people, when they walk in, they're like, this just feels different. So if you're in the area or if you're traveling through town or whatever, obviously stop by. We can take you on a quick little nickel tour of the place and, answer any questions you might have.
Yep. I'll actually be out there speaking at the end of the month, man. So I'm going to definitely try to pop in myself, dude. That'd be awesome. So, all right, I started this podcast, Brent, because you get all these quote unquote gurus out there, right? And it just seems like there's so much smoke and mirrors, so much fluff, and it's difficult to tell the truth from the non-truth, So I'm like, let me create a space where we go out there to the doers, guys like yourself that are actually in the trenches, building epic businesses, share your story, inspiration, knowledge with our listener base so they can go out there and create the epic lives and business that they want. And on a selfish front, I get to pick brilliant dudes, minds like yours all day long, and I grow a lot from it, right? So with that being said, our listeners are here, man, because they want to go out there and create an epic life, epic business like you've been able to do for yourself. So with that being said, do you have any last words of inspiration, motivation, advice that you'd like to leave them with?
Yeah. I think it's constant learners. That's why I sat in front of my bookshelves over here and all this. And so the book and the art on two sides, it makes me seem like I'm super smart with it all. But I think it's one of those things that can you constantly learn? Are you reinvesting in stuff that's outside of your industry? Because it's easy to kind of fall into that rut of going, hey, this is what the industry requires of me. But when you step outside that and to challenge yourself with things that go against what you believe or go against the way that you might do things, and to really truly open your mind up to say, hey, you know what, this world is evolving so fast. It's here today, gone tomorrow type of mentality. But I think the more that you are reading, investing in your learning, whether you love to listen to podcasts like this, whether you love to read, kind of whatever you want to go to live conferences, step outside your industry all the time. Like I tell you this, I'm in the fitness world. I'm sitting in my office right now, and there's probably maybe like 200, 300 books in here. And I think maybe 5 of them are fitness related. The rest of them are all kind of just challenge me in a whole different way. So I would say that is keep reinvesting in yourself. It's that content versus ambition. With the learning, the knowledge, always keep that in the ambition category. Don't step back and say you're content and you know it all, because as soon as you say that, people are going to pass you right on up. So I think it's one of those things that the smarter I become, the more I realize I don't know. And the more questions that I truly have about, crap, are we even doing this the right way? I'm sure I'll listen to this interview here a month or two from now and I don't know if that was the right way to say that. So keep reinvesting in yourself. I think that's the key thing, and develop not only your knowledge but your self-awareness, and you'll be good to go.
Yep, love it. Powerful words. And to those that are watching and listening to this, I know I end every podcast with this, you guys, but information without implementation is truly just the start of delusion. Information is not power. It's taking that information, taking action on it that creates power inside your world. So Brent shared so much amazing information with you guys. Take something that you learned today. He shared a lot for personal and business. So whichever aspect of your life that you're trying to grow, take something he shared with you and go out there and take action immediately right now so you can create the life that you know you want and deserve. We'll have links right below. So whether you're listening or watching, there's going to be links right below to get Brent's book, to check out his website. So make sure you go check that out. And Brent, man, I know how busy you are, dude. It's been an honor having you on the show. Really appreciate you being here, my friend.
Yeah. I appreciate it. And like I said, I hope everybody stayed awake throughout the whole thing. If you stayed up till the end, like I said, connect with me on Instagram. I'd love to kind of reach out, even just say, hey, tell me what stood out to you, because I'm always curious. Again, it goes back to that listening and learning. I'm always curious what resonates with people. If you're not in the fitness industry, shoot me over something and say, hey, that really stood out, or you're not very clear about that stuff, because I always want to learn, even from stuff like this too as well. So, just definitely let me know.
Awesome. Love it. All right, you guys, we will see you next time.